you know, Derek, you informed me because today was a busy day for me. Didn't really get a chance to read up on Brown's Twitter before we started the pod today. But you informed me that there was a lot of rumors circulating through Brown's Twitter and through Brown's media in general about some potentially big weapons that could be coming into Cleveland this offseason to potentially aid in the should I say revival of Deshaun Watson? I don't know what to call it, but for now I'll say revival, right? To aid in the revival of Deshaun Watson.
Mm-hmm.
Derek, when you look at the potential moves in front of the Cleveland Browns this offseason and potential weapons to place alongside Deshaun Watson, what are some names that you think of? What players do you think the Browns should look to target?
Yeah, so when I brought it up to you, I brought it up because it's fascinating. Because this is what I said on our last podcast, was like, you never know what's going to happen. Like, that's the fun part, is you have off seasons where guys become available and moves get made you don't see coming, like Tyreek to the Dolphins and everything. So with this report, and again, I don't have it in front of me. I don't remember who exactly said it. I can't tell you for sure, but I vividly remember reading that the rumor is, and the plan is, that the Browns are going to add another target for Deshaun, give him a little bit more, which I personally agree with. I'm on record, like, if there's one thing that I have hammered home, it's receiving targets. Like, you need to have weapons. You need to have options. And a couple things here. Number one, you have to in the NFL. Like, the way the NFL is going, you have to, right? Eagles, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown, right? And then you go the Raiders, Devontae Adams, and then Jacoby Myers. Hunter Renfro's there too, but Jacoby Myers, really. And then Miami, Tyreek Waddle, and the Bills, Diggs, and Gabe Davis, and even Khalil Shakir. Like, there, you can go team after team. The Vikings, Justin Jefferson, and Jordan Addison. Like, all these teams, you have to have two guys. Like, you have to have a Batman and a Robin. And for me, I think the Browns have been a little bit behind in that whole situation. I think we tried it with OBJ and Landry, and it failed, and we haven't really done it since. Although, there is an argument to be made that we already have that with Amari Cooper and David Njoku. I would hear that argument. But I think if that's the case, then you need to still have another guy. And I don't think Elijah Moore, personally, is that guy. I think what we've seen from him this year is he is a good option, but he's not the number two. Like, I don't think Elijah Moore is the number two. I think he is a good third situational guy that you can play with and kind of do different things with. Tristan, I think the Browns are missing that two. I think you're missing that guy next to Amari Cooper who just sets this offense to the next level. Who are we talking about there? That's the interesting factor for me. Who are we talking about? Because I've said it year after year after year now, going back to even when we got Baker. Like, I think the Browns need to add a rookie contract at the wide receiver position that is one of those guys. And I know that's easier said than done, right? Like, that is definitely easier said than done. Don't get me wrong. But if it were up to me personally, and you said, okay, you have the choice of going out and signing a big name receiver versus going out or trading for a big name receiver, or going out and trading up in the draft and drafting one. Depending on what you'd have to give up, I would draft one. And I have a long list of guys that I really like. Will the Browns get them? Probably not. Like, obviously Marv is off the table. Rome Odunze is off the table probably. Leak Neighbors probably off the table. But I would really love Malik Neighbors on this team. Like, I would just love Malik Neighbors on this team. But anyway, um, if that was an option, I would pick that route. But I think what's probably going to end up happening is we talked about it, Tristan, and this is a teaser for a future episode. The cap situation can be figured out. It will be stretched. It will be pulled. The Browns will have some financial ability to make a move. And I think, and I don't like this, but one of my buddies brought it up, and he said he heard something that Mike Williams trade would be an option. I personally hate that. I don't like Mike Williams. I really don't. He does nothing for me. And I think that would just be a whatever move. I don't view that as like a big upgrade. But you look at who's on the free agent market this year. You have Michael Pittman.
I got a list in front of me if you want me to read off.
Yeah, I was thinking of the Bucs receivers, but they Godwin and Evans was like missing my head. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. You also have T. Higgins.
Yep.
Interdivision. Let's see. Yeah, so you got T. Higgins, Michael Pittman, Calvin Ridley, Gabe Davis, Mike Evans, Tyler Boyd. Let's see. Yeah, like Josh Reynolds, Marquise Brown. Those are a couple of guys. Nobody. Oh, Michael Thomas from Saints. OBJ. Yeah, it'd be funny. Reunion, baby. No, that's not happening. But yeah, those are the biggest names that I can see. Besides, Mapletron, Chase Claypool. Let's get him through the door.
Absolutely
hilarious. No, I mean the rest of them are mostly like Mecole Hardman, guys that can like play a role, but not. I don't think they're guys that, I think we're both on the same page. Like, I think we're looking for guys that are, going to be impact players, off of free agency. And yeah, I mean. I'll let you keep on going before I jump into my bit.
Yeah, I would tend to think that the Browns are gonna get one of those guys. Like if this is true and they are looking to add another weapon, I think it's more likely that they go out and kind of do the same thing they did at quarterback of like, hey, well, we can't draft one, let's just spend the money on one. Like, I think that's more likely to happen than anything. Could there be a trade? Sure. I don't think that's necessarily likely unless I don't even want to open up this can of worms, but Conklin might be moved, Greg Newsome could be moved, Jedrick Will, there's a couple guys on this team that could be included in a trade package, which would be interesting. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if the Browns wanted to trade, they have some assets to do so. But I think it's more likely that the Browns would go out and get one of those guys. And a lot of them intrigue me. I think Michael Pittman would be fun. T. Higgins, I think, would be hilarious to steal from the Bengals. Or even Tyler Boyd, dude. Like, Tyler Boyd is not a bad receiver. So, yeah, I think it's more likely the Browns would spend a little bit of money to sign one more than anything. But, again, if it were up to me, I'd see if I can move up and get somebody in the draft. But I still think they might. They still might take somebody in the draft. Like, Jalen Polk is a perfect fit to be a Cleveland Brown. Like, that, there's a couple of those guys. So, I don't know. It just, Tristan, at the end of the day, what does this mean? The Browns are looking to add another weapon. What does that mean? Does that mean they want a legit weapon? Or do they want to add another guy? Like, are you just, I don't know.
Well, yeah. For me, the depth of the receiving room this year was not the issue. I thought we added some really, really good depth pieces. Cedric Tillman had moments. David Bell had a really great playoff game and in moments looked good. And I was really impressed with his ability. Marquise Goodwin had some good moments too. And Elijah Moore, I think, is talented. I just don't know what level he can consistently get to is my thing with Elijah. But what I will say is this. So as far as free agency goes, I'm with you. I think we're going to go after one of those guys. And, obviously when you look at the Browns cap situation, some of you might be saying, how are the Browns going to find cap space? Quite simple. Go to overthecap.com, and on with the teams, there's like a little tab near the top that you can select. Typically the one it's automatically on is, cut pre-June 1st. If you go down to restructure, it will tell you all of the money the Browns can save by restructuring some contracts, or even extending contracts. And, by extending, they can essentially make the initial cap hit lower, which I kind of expect us to do with like Nick Chubb. I'm expecting. I don't know if we're going to extend him this year or not, but I anticipate a move with his money. Yeah. With Mike Williams, it's interesting because I know you're not big on him. For me, I find it intriguing for two reasons. Number one, he is exactly what I feel this Browns receiving room can use. A big body receiver, jump ball, go up and get it. And a guy that's been able to do it quite a bit and be very successful with it. A matchup nightmare, shall I say. So I think that's the type of guy that would be very interesting for us to get. Not only that, but the other reason is if we were to trade for Mike Williams, our cap hit for him, instead of the 32.46 that it would be $20 million, and it's only for a year. So for me, the cap hit is low enough to the point where if you could get him for like a 4th round pick, I think it's worth it. If you can trade a 4th round pick and get him through the door, I think it could be worth it. If you're trading a 3rd or a 2nd, I'm more 50-50 on it. But the reason why I say that is because I think Michael Pittman is going to get big money this offseason. At least he should. I think that, let me actually go to my list because I'll go back to that list and be able to tell you. Yeah, Michael Pittman's going to get big money. I think Calvin Ridley's going to get big money. Gabe Davis should get big money. Ridley? Absolutely.
See, okay, yeah. That's the thing that's interesting here.
Plus, not only that, but I don't think Ridley fits what we're looking for. That's the other thing. Because Ridley's kind of like another Amari Cooper, route runner specialist. Like, I don't think that's what we need. I think we need a guy who is either fast as hell or is a big body physical receiver that, in one-on-one situations, you trust to come down with the ball at least half the time. That's what I think we need.
This is so interesting to me. Like, this is why I wanted to talk about it, because it's so fascinating, the lanes that they could go with this. Because, boy, like, would it be worth the investment if I told you, hey, the Browns could get Michael Pittman, and yeah, we're gonna pay him, but at least you have that guy for like 4 years or something. Like, that's intriguing. Same thing. T. Higgins, same thing. Like, even Mike Evans, I know he maybe. I know at his point in his career, it's kind of risky, but he played fantastic this year, and I mean, I think one of Evans or Godwin will remain in Tampa for sure.
I think Godwin still is under contract there.
Is he? Okay, because I heard he wasn't, but maybe I'm wrong.
I think so. I'm not seeing him on the over-the-cap free agent list for wide receivers, so I'm assuming he's still under contract. But yeah, I hear you, man. But for me, like, I'm going through this list. T. Higgins is going to get paid a lot of money. Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, Michael Pittman, Gabe Davis. I'm not really interested in Tyler Boyd. I think we got receivers that are similar to him in play style.
For the right price.
A lot.
For the right price,
sure. But I don't know. I mean, he's a productive receiver, very good. But I don't know. Same thing with, like, Michael Thomas. I don't think we really need those guys, if I'm being honest. So
Thomas would be interesting.
I don't know. He's 31. Do I really want to take that risk? I don't know. But regardless, for me, it's just there's a lot of risk.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of, we'll have to see how the wide receiver market pans out, but there are some teams with a lot of cap,
Mm-hmm.
and I think with the limited receivers that there are in the free agent market that I feel benefit us the most, like I would say my number one, Michael Pittman.
Mm-hmm.
I really like him as a football player. I would probably have him as my number one free agent wide receiver target. I'd probably have T. Higgins as the number two. Mike Evans is the three. I'd say Gabe Davis is the four.
Did D Hop sign a 1 year in Tennessee?
Multi-year. So, I mean, he could be available for trade. That could be another trade piece, but again, you're talking a lot of money. Let me actually look that up, actually, too. But, for me, at least personally, I don't know, man. It's going to be a lot of money, and it's going to be tough to find a guy. Mike Williams, for me, because he has a skill set that we don't really have on this receiving core, at least not one that's like completely impactful. And with Deshaun having success with a guy like that in the past, and him being one of the best jump ball receivers in the league, I think that's very intriguing, especially for 1 year, $20 million. I think that's interesting. But again, I completely understand your thoughts behind it, but I'm looking at the Hopkins deal right now. But go ahead and
no, I was just saying on Mike Williams. I could 1000% talk myself into it. Like I can watch enough film that I could be like, okay, I can see us using him this way, because I'm dumb. But anyway, for me, and I'm just gonna say this now, if the Browns did this, draft one with your first pick. Like you can't be done there. Would be my only argument. So, but yeah, I think you're muted, or you're.
Sorry, I'm looking at the DeAndre Hopkins contract, and it's really weird.
Is it?
So his cap hit next year is 15.9, and then the year after it's like 5.8, like 5.9. So, but the thing is that if we traded for him for this next year, the cap hit we would receive is 8.1 million, which is interesting because that's a really good number. So that's interesting, man. That's really interesting.
I don't know, dude.
Oh, the 2025 is a void year. That's what it is. So to get a lower cap hit. So we technically, if we were to trade for him, we would only have his rights for 1 year. So it would pretty much be a 1 year, $8.1 million trade, which compared to the Mike Williams deal, I might prefer DeAndre Hopkins.
Oh yeah, I would too.
That at that number too, that's very interesting, very intriguing too. There's one other player I'm trying to think of that might be open for trade, but I can't remember his name. Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. Keep going. I'm gonna see if I can try to come up with that name.
Yeah. I mean, for me, the biggest thing with this whole thing is it's so important to get guys on rookie contracts. Like, drafting is so important. Like, look at what the Browns have done in the secondary. Like, drafting Emerson, drafting Newsome. Like, say what you want, drafting JOK. Like, getting these guys who are so incredibly valuable for you. On your team, you picked them, rookie contracts. That's so valuable. The Browns have not been able to do that offensively. Like, we just haven't. I mean, other than, like, DeJuan Jones. Like, he's been great. That's awesome. That's huge. But can we get a weapon? Like, can we get, like, Amon-Ra St. Brown was, what, 5th-round pick? Puka Nacua, late-round pick. And I know it's so much easier said than done. I understand that. But the Browns are getting to the point where it's like, okay, you got to find something. Like, you have to be able to have a drafted weapon who you got 4 years at least of control with, who you can rely on. Like, that's so important. Because, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a point in time where you're going to want to spend money elsewhere, and you can't fully rely on, spending that money on receiving targets. So,
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Did you find your guy yet?
So it was Devontae Adams who I was thinking of. His cap hit, it wouldn't make sense. It would have to be a post-June 1st trade designation, and it would be like 17.5 mil. Yeah. But the other player who I was thinking of was, and I think you would love this trade, but I doubt that he would be available, Terry McLaurin.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be a heck of a move, and I think it would make sense. Probably would have to be another post-June 1st trade, but that's a guy who I would love to bring through the door. But those are potential options for receiver trades. But again, will all of them be available? I don't know.
Can we just trade for DK Metcalf? Can we just go get a freak? Like that's what I want. No. I want just
Washington's not moving off of him. I wish. Or
Seattle.
Washington. Jeez, Seattle. Yeah. I'm thinking Terry. My God.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. But you have anything else on this before we move on?
For big weapons, not really.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's obvious if we're gonna go out and get another big weapon, it's gonna be a receiver.
We'll hear names.
It's gonna be
too. That's another thing. You're gonna start to hear names.
Oh, for
and
sure.
we can narrow it down. So
I think when the season is over as well, you're really gonna start to see the rumor mill churn. But we'll see. We'll see. It's gonna be an interesting off season. Lots of ins, lots of outs, which we will be addressing in a future podcast about guys who are going to be their contracts expire this year, and guys that are going to be entering into the last year of their deals as well. We're going to have a very interesting off-season podcast about that too.
Mm-hmm.
So, last thing before we head off today,